but they continued to have events here, fundraisers in the cellar. The Chamber of Commerce one time had a big to-do. They were going to have a chicken and waffle supper, homemade ice cream, going to have entertainment, they had printed programs. It was a fundraiser. They ended up losing $6.21. They were just too overly generous. I have a letter of them preparing it, and I have a letter of the finance report where they lost money. But I remember the chicken and waffle suppers. When you walk down the steps over there down into the basement, boy, the homemade gravy and roast chicken and whatever, and waffles was just wonderful. Every Saturday afternoon for a period of time, a guy would come with a 16mm camera and cans of film, just one projector, and would have movies. Now, in the front of the building there was an entrance, but as soon as you get into the lobby there was a ticket booth. I mean, it had hollowed out places for the change and everything. And this guy would be in the booth selling tickets. But you had to wait around until everyone bought their ticket. Then he opened the door into the theater and he would tear the tickets off. Then we'd all rush in, mainly kids. It was always cowboy movies. We'd occupy all the front seats and as far back as there were people. And then there was nothing, so we would start hammering our feet. Bang, 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 bang. And he was up in the projection booth trying to load the first reel. Then he would come down and scold us. Now, if you kids don't behave, I'm going to pull out of here and I won't give you your money back. So then we were quiet until he got back in the projection booth and the whole thing began again. I swear this is true. And he'd come down again. Now, then the film would finally start, but he had to change reels. He had to stop, reload the thing with another reel. And then the commotion would start up again. This poor guy was so agitated, and the main reason we did it is because we knew we were getting his goat, and to us that was fun. So, and I won't go any further than that. There's some other incidents, but at some point, the American Legion also had a lot of the room at the second floor, where I told you there was a meeting room. They had German helmets, German sabers, German rifles with bayonets, and all kinds of other paraphernalia. They also established a plot up on our cemetery with 2 German machine guns and a British naval rifle. All that stuff's gone. And I don't know what happened to all the helmets and sabers and rifles, but we used to go up and play war. The actual thing. And it was sold then by the POS of A Hall to the Beavertown Rescue Fire Company. And they modified it completely. They took out the theater, put in a level floor, they partitioned some of it. And about right in here, they had a double door bus, or fire truck housing. And even before the POS&A had sold it to them, they closed South Center Street in the square to at least Chestnut Street here, and hold a festival during the summer months, usually only on a Saturday night. But they would string light bulbs, bare light bulbs, and cords all through, crisscrossing here and there. The space between Dr. Strohecker and the Colonel Car Company, they could set a barrel back there with a can in the back and put milk bottles to throw. The hot dog stand was about right here. The steps of the Opera House were the stage. They had a bingo stand. You remember any of that? Okay. So they raised sufficient money from that to eventually, and others, to buy the old PSA Hall and convert it into the first fire company. You had to be a member to get in. Members were given keys. It was a locked building. And they had a pool table in there, and a lot of the older guys would come, and there was a poker table. It was all good, clean, wholesome stuff. Don't get me wrong, no hanky-panky went on. But eventually it became so disrepaired that the fire company decided to build a new one where the present one is, sold it, and it stood vacant for a number of years, and I think Sam Herman bought it and sold it, and it was torn down, and whoever lived there bought it, and it's just now a vacant lot. And this was quite a, you consider some of the old Beavertown, this block that we're on was just full of things. We had the restaurant, we had the Opera House, we had the Kern Motor Car Company, we had Amanda Space, right there in that building was the Spake Foundry, which was back in the 1840s and 50s. By the late 18th, and I have a picture of that. That was the front of it. The rear end of that was cut off and became the house where Al Camp lived. I can't give you an address, but if you go down Sassafras, it's about the fourth house on the left, the rear part of the Spake Foundry. But in there, they made plowshares, cultivators, corn shellers, downspouts. The only thing I can reference you to is in the daycare center. When you go to the door, when you walk in, there's an iron plate there. As you step through the door, that was made by the Spake Foundry. In past shows, we've had downspouts, water catchers that people loaned us, but we could never find a corn sheller or anything else. When Moses Spake was the keeper of the original sheepskin drawing by Colonel Frederick Evans, the one made in 1810. At some point I told you Moses was a contractor along with a lot of other things, and he was indeed. But he started building this house here. And according to Jimmy Kearns, who told me this, when he started building it here, people in town said, wait a minute, Moses, you're building right in the right-of-way of Chestnut Street. Moses said, let me check my sheepskin. And so he goes up to the safe and gets it out. He never showed it to anyone. He says, no, boys, you're wrong. Chestnut Street ends right here, and then down here it goes around, and there's another street which was later called Railroad Street, but Railroad Street never could have been, I mean, there was no conception of a railroad in 1810 anywhere. So the people never really fully accepted that he wasn't building in the right-of-way of Chestnut Street, but he went ahead and finished it anyhow. And this is still pretty much, except for the colors, the way he built it. It's a very nice building. He built very fine stuff. This was his residence. Of course, had the business up there, was the sheriff, had a store, etc. Now, right across the street, at that vacant lot, where you see a little country, was the Central Hotel livery stable. It was very large. That's where they kept horses and buggies. You could have a saddle horse or a horse with a buggy. When people came in by train and stayed at the Central Hotel or wherever they stayed, they could come here and rent a horse or a horse and buggy, and go out and peddle their stuff or take care of their business, turn it back in, leave. No muss, no fuss, no bother. When a gentleman from Illinois came in one time, he said, you know, this would make a heck of a good place for a horse and mule auction. And so he asked the proprietor at that time, there's been many over the years, could he do it? And he said yes. So he would bring carloads of horses and mules in, and they would hold the horse and mule auction right here, right in the street and right by the livery stable. And where they were kept, I have since found out, well, I found out long ago, they would parade the horses and the mules to Center Street down to the next block where there was a large barn and straw shed. And that's where they kept the horses until they were ready to bring them back and sell them. And that's where I live now.